Welcome to the Korea Pro Podcast, your weekly guide to understanding the most pressing and complicated developments shaping South Korea. We're your hosts, Jeongmin Kim,
John Lei,
and Joon Ha Park of Korea Pro.
Go beyond headlines as we explain not just what happened, but also what really matters and why it matters.
If you monitor South Korea for work or just trying to keep up, you're in the right place.
This is the Korea Pro Podcast. Welcome back, listeners, to Korea Pro Podcast. We are recording on August 14th, Thursday, a little bit after 3 p.m. We have a few security-related news updates this week, as well as major revelation of the national task for the next 5 years for the Lee administration, and some of the controversial or interesting nominations for the remaining Lee administration positions. Let's start with Ulchi Freedom Shield. So we discussed this last week slightly on the initial announcement from the U.S. and South Korea side. This is a first joint summertime drill, the biggest one between Lee administration and Trump administration. And initially they announced, the U.S. and South Korean military authorities announced that 20 out of 40 field training exercises will be adjusted, which means pushed back to September, citing heat wave. But is it still hot right now?
Well, it's not hot right now, but it's gonna get hotter again.
I mean, that's true. But they cited heat wave and also operational quality when citing the reasons for adjustment. Of course, there were a lot of questions coming from reporters. Is this political decision? But we did discuss this last week. But the update to this is after that, of course, there were a lot of editorial board takes about what this means and what it, in broader terms, what this signifies when it comes to upcoming potential defense cost-sharing negotiations that's possible for the August U.S.-South Korea summit, or the discussion of the general U.S. Forces Korea purview that might actually be finally discussed by the two leaders. And regarding this, there was a General Brunson remark. I think he met with journalists.
Yeah.
And then this, I think, came shortly after someone in the Lee administration talked about OPCON transfer, the wartime operational control transition or transfer. Brunson's point was that that South Korea and the U.S. should not take shortcuts, and that rushing just to announce that it's completed will lead to
an effect on readiness.
Right, damages on the overall readiness. Because if you say that something's completed and then you transfer that, it's actually quite irreversible, many parts of that, right? Did you talk to any experts about OPCON transfer so far, Joon Ha?
I did talk to some experts about the OPCON transfer remarks that were delivered in the 5-year plan that we just mentioned, and we will get into more details soon. But what they were saying was that effectively, the OPCON transfer at the moment, it's decided and embedded within the 2014 system. We have 3 conditions to...
COTP, conditions-based transfer.
We have those 3 conditions to pursue. 2 of the conditions in the first condition, they have been tested, but there's still one that's remaining to be approved.
Right, it's IOC and FOC, the initial and the next one, the operational capabilities, they have been tested, but we are still looking at full mission capability testing, FMC.
That's true. And the South Korean forces, especially with the incidents that happened with the Air Force fairly recently, also the
dropping off the bombs.
And also breaching into Japanese airspace as well, of South Korean planes going there. And I think that the confidence within the U.S. Forces Korea and also the CFC with the South Korean forces taking on OPCON at this moment in time is not exactly that high.
I'm not quite sure why the South Korean government is... Well, I'm not sure that the president is, but at least the presidential committees are making all of these noises about having this all done within the 5-year term.
Well, not just him, but the defense minister as well.
Sure, but I don't understand why they're saying this. South Korea cannot make this decision by itself. It needs cooperation from the U.S. Similarly, the South Korean government has also been saying that they want to have... Just today, they mentioned they want to reopen the Kaesong Industrial Complex in North Korea. And, South Korea can't do it alone.
What year is it, 2011?
That's exactly what the experts were saying as well. So South Korea in its own sort of global diplomatic position, and especially with the sort of global conflicts that are going on, it really does depend on the geopolitics that's surrounding the peninsula.
And OPCON, the conditions-based OPCON specifically mentioned the conducive security environment, which now includes a whole lot of different geopolitical risks that we are looking at.
Indeed.
But let's go into details a little bit. You mentioned like you don't understand why they're saying it. It's pretty clear why they are saying it. You're thinking it from a strategic perspective, John. But when the presidential politicians are speaking, they're speaking to the public. So they are, I think...
It should be the same thing!
From your point of view, yes, but it does not work that way all the time with established politicians in many of the countries, including South Korea. And the latest NBS National Barometer survey, I think late July or early August, numbers show that over a majority, over 50%, of South Korean respondents, they do say that the OPCON transfer is needed. But also they say that among the ones that think that OPCON transfer should be pursued, 70% think that it should not be rushed. So
be careful what you wish for.
Be careful what you wish for, because maybe we will be getting the OPCON transfer, but not in the right way, right? But then Lee administration seems to be focusing a lot on how the majority wants OPCON transfer, but they're also being very internally inconsistent because they cannot pursue OPCON transfer while scaling down the drills or postponing them. And also they are saying within 5-year term, but it's condition-based. And speaking of which, this was included into the 국정과제, the 123 national tasks that Lee administration set out for the next 5 years. This is like a very routine thing that all the presidents do when they inaugurate. They think of like certain numbers of the goals that they want to pursue, and they sort of break it down into hundreds of different action plans. And this time around, it's 123 national goals, national tasks, and 5 main objectives, 12 core strategic tasks, and 564 action plans. And Yoon Suk-yeol administration's number was 120 tasks, so it's 3 more, it seems.
Well, it is an appendage measurement contest.
Right. So let's go into some of the objectives that they set out for. Let's start with security, since we already touched on it a little bit. Aside from OPCON, what are the other things that they mention?
Yeah, so the committee's diplomacy and security category within the 5 different categories included 15 different action plans, namely the modernization of South Korea's 3-axis defense system to sort of match becoming a more independent fighting force against North Korea and taking the lead.
What do they mean by that?
Well, it basically means just building on the existing programs with further enhancements over the next 5 years during Lee Jae-myung's administration to keep pace with North Korea's evolving conventional and also nuclear capabilities. And of course, 3-axis has been pursued ever since the Moon Jae-in administration, actually since the Park Geun-hye administration. So when we see that, we can basically see that as a continuation of what the former governments have been doing. Other than OPCON transfer as well, we saw the dissolution of the Defense Counterintelligence Command.
That's pretty big.
Yeah. It's been deemed as a key player, and it's been alleged as a key player in Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law declaration.
And even before that, it has just a whole lot of controversies, a lot of leaks, and a lot of
data breaches.
Yeah.
And a lot of leaks of black agents and white agents within South Korea's cohort. So when you look at that from a sort of strategic standpoint, it could be justified, but at the same time, there's a lot of controversy on how this command's responsibilities, which is effectively just intelligence for the ROK military, is going to be divided within the different ranks.
What are some of the other diplomacy-related issues that are mentioned? Yeah,
so the diplomacy-related issues, we've seen quite a large focus on North Korea. So bringing North Korea back from a state of hostility and a state of the sort of fighting force that we're against to the sort of partner of cooperation and reconciliation. Of course, as we saw this morning as well with the Kim Yo-jong statement, it's not exactly going to plan for South Korea, but we have seen some measures of reciprocity come out from stopping loudspeaker broadcasts between each other, But at the same time, they also propose the implementation of a peace economy.
Peace economy.
Yeah, so 평화 경제 system.
What year is this?
Yeah. So what the experts were telling me yesterday as well, and what I also observed by sort of cross-checking between President Moon Jae-in's sort of blueprint that he gave in 2017 compared to this one, it's effectively a carbon copy of what we've seen for inter-Korean relations at that standpoint. They're looking to negotiate a basic inter-Korean agreement modeled on the 1972 East-West Germany Basic Treaty. They're also looking for a peace and unification education policy for youth programs, which is also a carbon copy of the Moon Jae-in administration. Something that also came up was the revival of Moon era new southern and new northern policies as well. But of course, as I mentioned beforehand, it's also quite a similar sort of strategic standpoint with OPCON transfer. It always will depend on the geopolitical situation,
Right.
and what's around South Korea.
Also, that's very subjective, isn't it?
Just flawless victory after victory. Amazing.
And then, of course, we had the sort of foreign policy objectives looking at the four big powers surrounding South Korea. So upgrading the Iraq-US alliance with a future-orientated, comprehensive strategic alliance.
What does that mean?
Well,
We don't know.
we need to ask them in person.
Off to Taiwan!
And seeking a sort of future-oriented development with Japan, a strategic cooperative partnership with China, and also stable management and development with Moscow.
it-
There are so many words there, and I don't know what any of them mean.
It's effectively just words.
We should probably control F and see how many times they mention it strategically.
And also
pragmatically.
pragmatically. Yeah.
Well, we'll see what it actually means when we see the actual summits and meetings and negotiations going forward. And what about a bit more domestic stuff, political reform and society-related issues?
Sure. So I'll start off with politics. So we had the first sort of key 5 tasks that we saw. That was politics for the people. So 국민을 위한 정치. And basically what the Lee administration's committee was saying was that they will pursue the constitutional amendment as its top priority. So what came up, and John will say that this is not going to happen within the 5-year term.
You should make a t-shirt out of it, John.
Well, I'm sure it will sell only to John. And it's sort of a 5-year term to better embody this sort of principle of popular sovereignty among the people. So deriving the sort of system of governance from Yoon Suk-yeol away from the 1987 system to a more brandish new 2025 system.
I wanted to flag this. I was planning to discuss this during the week ahead, but then this popular sovereignty thing, this is interesting and kind of problematic because he keeps saying, sure, sovereignty lies in the people. It's like just constitutionally it makes sense.
Sure, yeah.
But then South Korea is representative democracy. It's not direct democracy, right? And then when he says popular sovereignty, there are so many ways it can be interpreted wrong, right?
I mean, the title of his government or his administration is 국민 주권 정부.
People sovereignty government.
People sovereignty government. So he's basically playing along with that theme. You see
Right.
that throughout the entire 5-year blueprint presentation yesterday, where 국민, people keeps on coming up. So when we see that from that standpoint, the whole idea of a constitutional amendment based on his own terms, putting more power to the National Assembly than to the executive,
Right.
is something that could resonate with his own doctrine. But whether that will resonate with the public, they're sort of proposing this 2026 national referendum on the
During the
Constitution.
local election in June,
Yeah.
right?
But of course, we have to wait and see.
If he actually wants to do that, he will have to maintain centrist support throughout the entire next year, which will be a difficult task, it seems. What are some of the industrial and social related tasks?
Yeah, so we've seen quite a number of gender policies coming up, especially within the sort of social society task category. So he's saying that he'll expand and reorganize the gender ministry into the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family Affairs. So 성평등 가족부. So changing from 여성가족부 to 성평등가족부.
Wow, big improvement. Hooah.
Sure. And he also...
I'm sure guys will love it.
And then, so he also had this sort of more detailed family ministry focus, where the key tasks were support for healthy growth of children and youth, support for diverse family types, a gender equal society with sort of guaranteed rights. And
For both two genders, do they mean?
well, they said gender equal society. They did
Okay.
not mention two genders.
Okay.
So there's no real numbering there. However, there was also this expansion of the ministry's role to tackle digital sex crimes and also dating violence. The goal, basically, as I just mentioned, is to be more gender equal. And I'm using air quotes. And also, you had sort of public childcare service coverage, female labor force participation rate rising. They specified that as a specific goal for sort of gender moves. And then you also had the labor reform, which is
a big one.
which is a key component of President Lee and also his labor minister, that have set out to put the yellow envelope bill into motion. So what they're saying is that, as we've seen throughout the past couple of weeks, President Lee has been emphasizing in his cabinet meetings the idea of workplace safety and mitigating the risk of industrial accidents happening.
Right.
And especially we saw that within the 5-year plan too. So expanding industrial accident insurance coverage, shortening the accident claim processing times from the different companies, and also reducing the fatal workplace accident rate to the OECD country average.
Okay, John, can you please jump in quickly to explain what the Vice Labor Minister just said about the yellow envelope law and the industrial accident related issues?
So what the Vice Minister of Labor had said on Wednesday is that initially I had anticipated that what the government was going to do was it was going to really emphasize on SAPA, the Serious Accidents Prevention Act. And I was partially right. That is what the government is going to do. But there's going to be another law that the government is also going to tack onto that, and that is the Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA, which is very different from America's OSHA. But anyway, what the government is planning to do is just enforce these two laws so that if there are any further industrial accidents, particularly repeated accidents in these industries, whether they lead to fatal eventualities or whether the accidents are serious, what the government is going to do is that they're going to enforce a lot of these administrative punishments. We've already talked about this before last week. Now, this is going to involve making it difficult for companies to bid for government contracts, to get government loans. But most importantly, there are going to be two more additions. And those final two additions are that, firstly, they will be able to forcefully deregister companies.
Oh, that's pretty big.
That's going to prevent companies from actually legally operating as businesses. Now, what the government said, what the vice minister said, he caveated was that under extreme circumstances, de-risking is going to become an option. But that's the phrase that we need to look at. Under extreme circumstances. We don't know what that means. A lot of this is not based on court rulings. It's going to be based on administrative interpretation.
Right, not quantitative standards.
Exactly.
But the public reaction will be considered as well, right?
Exactly. How does the public react? How does the president feel that day? Did he wake up in the wrong side of bed? All of that is going to come into consideration. And so besides de-risking, the second one is that they are going to try to revive the tool that the labor minister once had, which is to just completely stop businesses from operating on any given day if there are, again, these kinds of extreme circumstances that bubble up.
The authority existed until like 2019, but that was gone since 2020. But apparently it's going to be back. Let's move on to some of the appointments that were interesting. Lee Chan-jin, John. It's a very, very specific and confusing appointment, I think. Can you walk us through it?
Lee Chan-jin was recommended by the Financial Services Commission to head the FSS, which is the Financial Supervisory Service. The FSS is essentially South Korea's financial watchdog. If there are any sorts of malfeasance that is going on, the FSS is the one that goes in to investigate and tries to find out what's going on. So that's what the FSS does. Now, Lee Chan-jin is an interesting person to head the FSS, and that's because he is Lee Jae-myung's lawyer. The last case...
Lawyer.
His actual lawyer. What actually happened... The last legal case that Lee Chan-jin had been overseeing was President Lee Jae-myung's remittance to North Korea legal case, the one where he was alleged to have sent $8 million to North Korea while he was a governor of Gyeonggi province.
Involved in the case.
Involved in the case. His deputy is in jail serving the same case, but, not the president. But anyway, he's the president's lawyer. Now, sure, there is no hard law that says that you have to be a financial lawyer or a financial investigator to become the head of the FSS. But if you look at his profile, while he has had a lot of legal cases that involved civil society and defending the president as well, there was no instance of him going after financial irregularities or economic fraud or any of that nature. And so what's going to really matter is because Lee Jae-myung and Lee Chan-jin are so very close, we have to wonder what kinds of independence that the FSS is going to have under his stewardship. Now, the FSS is an independent watchdog. It's not supposed to take orders, really, from anyone else. They're supposed to be an autonomous agency that looks into financial malfeasance. But back in June, not long after President Lee Jae-myung was elected into office, what he was saying that was he really wants to crack down on stock abuses. So remember how we were talking about how this was basically a veiled attack against the former First Lady.
Yeah.
So
who's in detention, by the way, now?
Who's in detention, by the way, right now. And so if we look at Lee Chan-jin and Lee Jae-myung and the way that they're so and the way they've been so close for all these years. And because Lee Chan-jin doesn't really know all that much about financial regulation or deregulation or what have you, how much independence is he really going to have? And how much is he going to take orders from the presidential office? So we're not quite sure as to how much autonomy that the FSS is going to have under Lee Chan-jin's stewardship.
Interesting.
Looking to stay informed about South Korea's fast-evolving political, business and cultural landscape? Join us on Korea Pro, the go-to resource for in-depth analysis expertly curated by top-tier professionals. And now you can pick the membership level that best suits your needs, thanks to our new subscription packages. Starting at just $199 annually, you can access daily analysis and our weekly podcast. Or try our premium membership package, which offers additional perks such as executive briefings, monthly reports and forecasts, networking receptions and event opportunities, as well as much, much more. To find the best fit for you, just head to signup.koreapro.org and become a member today.
Week ahead, we have a couple of very big diplomatic events or preparations for events coming up next week. First of all, we have UFS that we just mentioned early on. We have the Liberation Day ceremony on Friday when this podcast will be released. Joon Ha, just very quickly, what's the theme for this year?
Yeah, so we've got the People's Appointment Ceremony.
That you mentioned before, yeah.
So it's the...
People's Appointment. So people appoint the president or president appoints
so
we call that an election.
Yeah, so that too. And but we have 80 members of the public that was chosen by the presidential office that will be sort of handing him a sort of shortened inauguration certificate, so to speak, where he will be appointed by the people, showcasing this whole idea of people's sovereignty again.
Yeah, and it's late night in Gwanghwamun, and the entire Gwanghwamun area will be blocked out, people, so don't come to that area that night.
And then we also saw former presidents and their spouses that were invited, but the conservative presidents, Park Geun-hye and Lee Myung-bak, they canceled.
Which was expected because PPP is also not
PPP is
attending.
also not coming, and also the Seoul mayor is not coming.
Right. And more importantly, there are summits. We finally have the dates for the U.S. summit, which is August 25th at the White House. And then shortly after we heard that schedule, very interestingly, the presidential office announced the date for the Japan summit as well.
Yeah, so the Japan summit will be on the, Lee will fly to Japan on the 23rd. The Japan summit is likely to happen on the same day. He will finish his trip to Japan on the 24th and fly immediately to Washington.
Is this the first time that the president goes to Japan for a summit first?
Yes. So it is the first time a South Korean president will visit a country, our neighbor, Japan, before the United States president.
And John, what do you think the motivation here is?
They are trading notes.
About
They've
what?
got to. Donald Trump's in the White House doing his Godzilla thing, trying to wreck everything. And so Japan and South Korea are in the same boats. Both countries are facing tariffs. And so they're trying to compare notes. They're trying to find out how they're going to have a united front against the United States.
So
Or
this
Godzilla.
opens up a very a new era for a Japan-South Korea relations thanks to Trump. And what are some of the expected topics during the Japan summit and the U.S. summit? Let's start with Japan.
Well, Japan, you'll definitely have this whole idea of shuttle diplomacy coming back, and sort of this trade. You'll have culture talks. Of course, you'll see the first time Lee Jae-myung and Ishiba sort of meet after the G7 Wyden summit, where they were talking about the sort of 60 years of national relations between the two countries, and they'll try to sort of brandish that as a symbolic form.
Right, but
Just today, President Lee Jae-myung was saying how the comfort women issue is still not yet resolved.
right.
Just before visiting visiting Japan. Rather.
That's probably planned. So what do you think Lee's game plan is with historical grievances, John?
I'm not quite sure what his game plan is really, especially considering the fact that he's the guy who just gave a pardon to Yoon Mi-young.
That's true. Who's Yoon Mi-young, by the way?
So Yoon Mi-young is a former liberal progressive politician who was jailed for sort of political bribery and also sort of political embezzlement, money embezzlement cases while she was working as a representative for comfort women. These comfort women, South Koreans who were taken to different parts of the world for Imperial Japanese forces.
And she was chosen as one of the pardon list for the Liberation Day. What an irony. What about the U.S. summit, John?
The U.S. summit is going to be very challenging. President Donald Trump is going to be there at the Oval Office. He's going to smile, he's going to shake hands, and then he's going to say whatever that comes to his mind. Now, that could be about Hillary Clinton. It could be about Epstein. We don't know. But if he starts to talk about defense cost sharing with Lee Jae-myung right there in front of all the journalists with their cameras recording the whole thing, it's going to put him in a very awkward position.
Well, he would probably prepare for that, no?
I feel like he would definitely talk with his own publicity team.
Yeah.
And all of this information will be in email inboxes by Monday at 2 p.m. via the Week Ahead newsletter. So if you'd like to know more, please subscribe.
And if you liked our podcast episode today, please leave a review and give us 5 stars, please.
Bye-bye. And have a great weekend, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in.
If you want to know more, sign up for our daily executive briefings. We'll brief you on all you need to know from the past 24 hours and why it matters, delivered to your inbox every morning.
If you want to stay ahead of the curve, sign up for Korea Pro to get a full package of insights, from daily expert analysis to profiles, month in review, week ahead, and more.
And until next time, I'm Jeongmin Kim.
I'm Joon Ha Park.
And I'm John Lee, and we'll see you next time on the Korea Pro Podcast.